This is the ASUS ROG ZEPHYRUS, an ultralight gaming laptop built with NVIDIA's new Max-Q design, which is how ASUS managed to squeeze a GTX 1080 inside a laptop less than an inch thick. But between its high price and unconventional design, the ZEPHYRUS makes a few compromises that might be off-putting to some buyers. Alright, so like I said, this is not a budget laptop by any means. Starting at $2,700, the ZEPHYRUS offers an Intel i7-7700HQ processor, 16GB of RAM, and a 512GB SSD, and of course an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 graphics card with Max-Q design. Real quick, let's go over what Max-Q is and isn't. By necessity, most gaming laptops are thick and bulky. They need all that extra space for fans and cooling for these powerful graphics cards. Now, NVIDIA found that underclocking their existing graphics cards allowed them to run cooler and get by with smaller fans without losing too much of their graphical output. See, the more power you pump into a card, the better it performs and the hotter it gets. But there's a point at which those graphical returns start to diminish. So NVIDIA's new Max-Q cards are engineered to use just enough power to reach that point without crossing the line into diminishing returns territory. In practice, that just means that the GTX 1080 inside the ZEPHYRUS is technically about 18% slower than a non-Max-Q mobile GTX 1080. However, that doesn't mean the ZEPHYRUS isn't a killer gaming laptop because, well, it is. But it's not without problems. The design, while interesting, completely neglects left-handed users by situating the touchpad on the right side. The keyboard is adequate, but its positioning is unfortunate. It's hard to use as an actual laptop because your hands end up perched at the bottom edge of the keyboard. Another problem the ZEPHYRUS suffers from is an excess of heat. Despite the bottom plate opening up to vent all the extra heat generated by the GTX 1080, this thing gets really hot. During our tests, it routinely hit an excess of 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes it pretty uncomfortable to use as an actual laptop. On our benchmarks, the ZEPHYRUS outperformed most of its nearest competitors, including the Alienware 15R3 and the new Razer Blade. To be fair, neither of these laptops were running GTX 1080 graphics cards, but they were running the GTX 1070 and 1060, respectively. That's an important point because the ZEPHYRUS outperformed the Alienware 15R3 in every one of our gaming benchmarks, but not by very much. All that graphical horsepower also has a negative effect on battery life. During our tests, we rarely got more than 2 or 2.5 hours out of the ZEPHYRUS before it died completely. Alright, so taken as a whole, the ZEPHYRUS is a powerful if flawed gaming laptop. If you really need a GTX 1080 in a laptop nearly as thin as a MacBook, the ZEPHYRUS isn't a bad choice. In fact, it's one of your only choices, but there are other laptops on the market which offer almost as much power with a lot less compromise, and you might be better off considering one of those.